Hi everyone, it's Jackie at Spare Room Studio. I'm back today to colour in this book by Ken Matsuda. I haven't done the translation, so this is actually the French version by Hachette Heroes. It came up in Amazon as a suggested buy for me, and it was a reasonable price. In the past I've looked at this book and it's been very expensive to get here in Australia. But it was a reasonable price. I can't remember exactly how much, but I decided that I wanted to buy it. And it's a lovely book. It is all in French. I haven't actually translated any of it, but there's some really lovely colour examples at the beginning, and I will get around to translating it one day. And there are also some really beautiful pages in here that are coloured, like this for example. So what I hope to do is, when I'm struggling, I can look at these for some colour inspiration. There are also QR codes so that you can look these artworks up, and there are small thumbnail images in the back there with some colour as well. So that's really handy, but I haven't actually coloured in it as yet. So today I thought I might just colour here on this front page to see what the paper is like, having never used it before. I've never actually purchased a Hachette Heroes book before either, so this is all very new to me. And you'll see how I just sort of tend to dive in and do these things. So I'll just get that set up. I've got an old piece of paper towel here that's still usable. And my plan today is to use my Faber Castell Albrecht Durer pencils. So I feel like doing a little bit of watercolour style colouring again. Not so much the ink tints this time, but I actually felt like doing watercolour. And I've decided to not actually look at anything for this first one, to not be influenced by anything else. I'm just going to go with my own colours for this first one, and show you how I would sort of dive into things normally. So I'm just picking a couple of colours for starters here. So the Albrecht Durer is the watercolour pencils by Faber Castell. I think these are the top of the range watercolour pencils for the Faber Castell brand. And I'm going to start off with blue, violet and magenta. And I'm just going to do a bit of a colour and chat style again, because if you've looked at my recent videos, I've talked very much about how hesitant I am to actually do a colour along or a full-on tutorial. So this is really my sort of style of what I like to watch when I'm looking for something, pardon me, and how I best learn. So I figure, you know, for demonstration purposes, if this is the way that I learn, it might actually be the most comfortable way for me to actually show other people as well. So what I'm doing is lightly wetting the paper. Because I haven't worked with it before, I've got no idea what it's going to do. There is a picture on the back here of an axolotl. So hopefully I don't sort of go through too much. Ken's artwork is very, very light and airy looking, with lots of light washes, very clean washes. He doesn't tend to dirty the colours at all with lots of blending. It's all very clean, fresh colours. And so I'll try and keep that in the back of my mind as I'm working, that I'll try and mimic some of that myself. And what I like to do when I'm working with these Albrecht Durer pencils especially, is to put one colour wash down, and then while that's still damp, drop some other colours into it. And when I look at the artwork that Ken has actually done himself, it looks like he might do very similar things, and I don't know whether he works with watercolour or whether he's working with inks or anything. I've really done no research into Ken as an artist, but that's the impression I get from looking at his art, that he does something similar as well. So just to get started, I'm going to try and keep that in my back of my mind. So I don't really want to copy his work at this stage, but be influenced by it. So you can hear Hamish moving around there. So this blue is ultramarine, and I'm going to do some of that very lightly up here. Now, I didn't wet the paper first this time. This is just very, very lightly touching the brush to the tip of the pencil and picking up the slightest bit of colour on the pencil, off of the pencil, sorry. And just what naturally comes out of the water brush, I haven't squeezed it, it's just what comes out of this brush naturally on its own accord. It is quite a wet, sort of easy flowing brush, but I'm going to try not to saturate the paper too much. So I'm going to look to work in this manner with it, and then build the colour up in very light layers. And if the paper doesn't seem to be coping very well with that, I will perhaps just get to the point where I feel like the paper can't cope, and then let it dry and maybe use some colour pencils with it. And I haven't used my polychromos pencils very much yet, so I might actually pull them out and have a go with those. So I was thinking that I'd like this flower to have a very purple sort of influence. I wanted those to have the sort of pale blue lilac influence, and I'm thinking that this one here, I might like this one to actually be sort of more of a pink with an orange bias to it maybe. So I'm looking at, I've got rose carmine here and pink Meadow Lake. So I'll start with the pink Meadow Lake. And again, I haven't wet the flower first, I'm just picking up the colour from the tip of the pencil with the brush and lightly adding that colour to the paper. So I was feeling really tired this morning. I've been walking a lot more steps per day with the dog, and this morning we walked quite a way because he was doing pretty well. There was quite a few challenges that he was not comfortable with, but he was doing pretty well, so I decided to just keep pushing him today. And rather than thinking about how fast or how far we were walking, I was thinking more about the longer that we're actually out of the house, the more exposure he's having to the things that are challenging him the most, which is strangers, people, particularly men, and sudden noises that spook him. And so we actually walked past a school that is close by to where I live, and the children were out for their morning recess time or playtime, and there was a lot of squealing and screaming and high-pitched sort of, voices, so that unnerved him. So I just went a bit further down the street so that he could see the kids from a distance through the fence and obviously hear them, because you know how good a dog's hearing can be. But he was able to see them in the distance, running around, jumping about and so on. But he knew he was safe because he was on the other side of the fence. And so I made him sit and wait for quite a while, you know, getting exposed to all those noises. And then there were some workmen who are renovating a house. So there was trailers and equipment and noise, talking. It was a couple of men. And so I walked really slowly past there on the other side of the road so that he had a little bit of distance between him and them. And, you know, just things like that, that instead of just sort of walking on by, I haven't been rushing past things that are worrying him, but we haven't been sort of spending too much time challenging him at this point. But I felt like today that he might be ready to be challenged a little bit more. And so we were out for quite a while, and I walked quite a distance with him again. I think it was maybe just over 5 kilometres today. And so when I got back, I was feeling quite tired and a bit jaded actually. So here I've got apple green and earth green yellowish. So the apple green is looking a little bit lighter. So I'm going to put a very light layer of that first. And then I'm going to come back with the earth green yellowish and do that in these bits that might be a little bit sort of shaded. Now, Ken's drawing style here is very loose, and although it's anatomically correct and sort of, you know, all correct that way, I don't feel like it's overly realistic, and so I'm going to choose to work quite loosely again with this because that's my preferred style these days. I really enjoy the loose washes of watercolour and loose blending of colour where, you know, I will put a quite wet wash down and then come back with another colour and drop it into that wet area. I quite enjoy doing that, so some of that might go on. I'm going for a darker pine green now. And I'm going to do these areas that might be more behind and perhaps in shadow are going to get the pine green. So yeah, I got back from this walk this morning and had some breakfast and a coffee and sat looking at Instagram and watching a few videos and so on. And I don't have any plans today, so I decided that let's strike while the iron is hot and I've got no real plans. I will get another video done and a bit of colouring done. And I just really fancied getting this book out and using the watercolours with it. So I was watching the recent newest video that Poet Spice has uploaded, and I just love the freedom with which she works with. I'm just going to add in some yellow ochre now. I love the freedom with which she works with her markers. She was using alcohol markers, and it was sped up. She'd done a voiceover, so it wasn't a tutorial, it was just more of a chatty style video, but just watching how freely she added her alcohol markers with no real hesitation, you know, just sort of inspired me that yeah, go get the watercolours out, do what you want to do and just enjoy it. You know, low pressure. I really feel like I need that, you know, that sort of a day where I allow myself the time to play and enjoy my hobby, and no real stress or pressure put on myself. So thanks to Poet for inspiring me to do that. So this one here is light green. Yesterday when I recorded the second part of the page in Symphony of Cute Animals by Kanoko Agusa, I was talking about my reluctance to swatch and so on, and I was thinking about it like some people would probably be quite uncomfortable with the way I work. And I'm thinking about you, Helen, if you're watching. I don't even put my pencils back in order. You know, I don't swatch, I don't put anything into order or colour families. Every now and again I might have a sort out and put them back into number order or something, but then the next time I use them I mess them all up again. So I don't spend a lot of time organising and curating my supplies, and hopefully one day Helen and I are going to actually get to colour together in person. When time allows, I want to go up and visit Helen again. We actually met for a coffee a couple of weeks ago, and it was lovely to meet somebody in person that I talked to online and has very similar interests to me. It was just really lovely to catch up. And Helen has the most amazing studio. She creates some beautiful, beautiful painting, decorative painting, and her colouring is just amazing. And just excuse me one moment. I'm really sorry about that, but I could hear some crunching going on. And Mr. Menace, Hamish, has been into Evie's things and was chewing on one of her toys. And she will be devastated if he ruins any of her toys. So, yeah, I just just had to go and save a little stuffed turtle. It was his lovely big glassy looking eyes that were getting chewed on. So Hamish has been a little bit naughty this morning, which given his history of being so frightened is not such a bad thing. It's quite humorous. And I was getting ready myself this morning. I got dressed and I was in the ensuite brushing teeth and that sort of thing, and came out and couldn't find socks that I thought that I had put down with my shoes, to my walking shoes, to go for a walk. And I was pretty convinced that I had got a pair of socks out and had left them by the shoes, and I just could not find them. And I thought, I really am more tired than I realise, and, you know, sort of put it down to I had not actually got them out. And then out of the corner of my eye, I could see through the window that Hamish had gone outside, and he was leaping about and playing with something in the garden, which in itself is quite unusual because he does play, but usually only when we're out there with him. And so I went to have a look, and there he was with my rolled up socks that I had gotten out to wear, throwing it up in the air like a ball and having a grand old time pouncing on them, leaping around, throwing them around. And, you know, as I say, it's a bit naughty. I probably should have reprimanded him for doing it, but it was very amusing at the same time to see him acting like a dog and taking great delight in this pair of socks that he'd snaffled. So he saw me watching him and came tearing in through the doggy door and brought the socks with him. And so because he was so pleased with himself, I actually was able to get the socks off of him straight away, no problem. Normally he does not drop things or let go of things too easily when you're playing. So I got them back and they were unharmed. There was no holes. He hadn't actually chewed them. He'd just been playing with them. So that was very amusing to me because if any of you have had a very frightened dog like he is, you know, you'd agree that it's kind of nice to see them actually coming out of themselves and showing that side. This is dark Naples ochre. So he's been a little bit mischievous this morning, and I think because I'm sitting here doing this and ignoring him, he must have decided to go in to Evie's room and sort of help himself and maybe force the issue a little bit. I'm going to use the blue violet, which I've used over here on this flower, to suggest a little bit of shadowed area under this foliage. And I think I'll also use the light yellow ochre as well in conjunction with the dark Naples ochre. I'm thinking this is a leopard. I don't know if it is. I'm just guessing that. I'm not great with identifying some of the animals when they're drawn artistically. You know, a real photograph's a bit easier to recognise. So, yeah, so just going back to what I was saying before, I'd love to sort of catch up with Helen and her sister Kate and have some colouring time with some, you know, with people who actually share the same interest as me, and we can have a good old natter and colour in person would be fabulous. So I haven't forgotten, Helen, if you are watching. It's just waiting till things settle down time-wise, and we will definitely do that. So, yeah, that was really lovely when Helen reached out and said, would you like to catch up and have a coffee and meet? It was really lovely. It was just like we chatted away like a couple of old time friends who hadn't seen each other for a while. It was really, really lovely, and really comfortable chatting away with Helen, finding out that we'd had some similar experiences in our creative journeys, and you know, the things that we approach differently and so on. It was just really interesting, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So it hasn't actually gone through, but it is starting to cockle the paper quite a bit. I'm just going to make sure that I'm still in frame, because yesterday I was colouring away happily and not even in frame for much of it. That's just how scattered and disorganised I am at the moment in my thinking. So when you're using these sort of pencils in this way, it's really important that you don't forget to clean your brush off in between, and then start picking up the colour, you know, of a totally different pencil, and mucking your colours up and dirtying your colours up. Instead of red, I always think of mushrooms as being red, whether they are or not. You know, that's just where my brain goes. I'm actually going to introduce more of an orangey, tanny colour. So this is terracotta. I feel like doing some sort of muted, not muted, but they're sort of almost pastel-y colours that I've got going on there. I think it will be much more of a subdued colour palette that I'm hoping to get here. I want to sort of keep that nice light airy watercolour look if I can. So I've added a little bit of that into the leopard there as well, terracotta. And what I'm doing is every pencil that I'm using I've got here off to the side. When I get to the point where I feel like I've introduced enough, I'll just keep going back to that range that I've pulled out, rather than keep introducing too many more colours, because that is something that I tend to do at times, is that I feel like I need to use every colour in the set and throw every colour I own on a page, and it ends up looking like a unicorn has vomited at the circus or something like that. So I have to pull back sometimes and remind myself not to do that, not to go gung-ho and add too many colours. And I'm thinking a bit more of an orange than that one, because they're sort of more of the tan sort of natural oranges or burnt oranges. I'm going to go for, let me have a look here. This is actually called light cadmium red, but it's more orange to me. I have a tendency to also think that all small fish should be goldfish, and they should be orange goldfish. So I'm going to actually add some